right, well, it is top of the hour, just a little bit past. So we're going to jump in. I'm super excited to be here today. I go back and forth why never wanting to hear the word AI again, and then other times can't get enough of it. So I think we're in a can't get enough of it moment right now. But I wanted to introduce everyone, and then we're going to jump right in. So we've got, to my square left, we've got Shelley Specchio. She's the president and CEO of MIBOR and the BLC. That's their MLS name. Jeff Lasky is the CEO of NSBAR, the North Shore Barrington Association of Realtors. Many of you may have known him for his years in the MLS space as well, when he was at MRED. And then we have Gilbert Gonzalez, who's president and CEO of the San Antonio Board of Realtors. So again, another long-term veteran in this group. Thanks all of you guys for being here today. And then we have Meagan Zeman, and she is the COO and chief cook and bottle washer of Voiceflip by Ardi. I keep saying it backwards. Ardi by Voiceflip. So we got a great group of people here to talk about, I think, something exciting, because the word AI is getting thrown around in every conversation. Some people it's almost, we're at the point of AI washing, I think. If you remember those days when everything was social media, then everything was .io, and now everything's .ai. These guys are the real deal. They're doing something really significant and meaningful and tangible that works in practical ways every day in associations and MLSs. So we at Wave Group, I'm sorry, did I even introduce myself? I did not. I'm Marilyn Wilson, president and CEO of Wave Group and president of Ardi Technology. So, we see all kinds of stuff. This particular one really excites me because, again, it's real, it works, and most importantly, and this is one of the things I love about AI the best, is that it's helping realtors do what they do in a way that's comfortable to them, right? Lots of times technology made us go to it as opposed to it serving us. And this has completely flipped that. This particular one and many others is flipping that model, where we're making it easier for practitioners to access all of the great work, information, insights, data that we have in ways that make sense for them and when it makes sense for them. So this program, and like many, are now 24/7. We know agents are not 9-to-5ers, right? They don't ever work the same schedule every single day. So if they're doing a deal at 10 or 11 or 2 o'clock in the morning, we're now there to support them in whatever we can. So I love this stuff. It's really the change of, I think, the way that we become and stay even more relevant and meaningful and exciting to our customers over the long haul. So with all of that, I'm going to turn to Meagan. She's going to kind of give us just a quick introduction about what is this thing. And then we're going to just talk through with 3 of the current customers and talk about how they use it, why they use it, how it's working. And then feel free, if anybody on the call has questions, throw it into the chat, and I will be happy to ask the folks, whoever is appropriate, to answer that for you to the best of their ability. So Meagan, take it away.
Marilyn. So Voiceflip, we built AI assistants specifically for real estate, which matters because we understand context about the real estate industry. And so we are going to talk about Ardi today. Ardi is our AI assistant that was built for MLSs and associations. The company was founded 7 years ago. We've built all of our own AI models. Everything's custom made. We're not a wrapper of ChatGPT or OpenAI, which really matters as we get into it of we don't hallucinate. We don't say we know an answer if we don't. And when we were building this, we identified a problem within real estate, which is your members have a lot of questions. And your staff is getting inundated with repetitive questions. How do I reset my password? Or what's this rule? And rules are constantly changing. And so it leads to a lot of wasted staff hours. It leads to frustration on both the staff side of it and the member side of it. And so we decided to build this AI assistant where you can meet your members where they're at. They can ask a question, like you said, 24/7. Any time of day on multiple different channels and in 26 different languages. So our goal is making data available to the people when they need it and wherever they need it.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'll ask each of you a little bit of the scope of where you're starting with your Ardi assistant, what kinds of questions that you're starting with. The great news about this, and as you see, is that you can literally add data as often and as quickly and as deeply as you want. So this thing never stops. It just keeps getting better and better and better. And when your customer asks a question, and if Ardi can answer it, it answers it. If it can't, it sends it to one of these guys and says, hey, they're asking a question about this. Give me the answer so I can answer it back. And it will circle back with that person that we couldn't answer it for the first time to say, hey, we got an answer for you. Thank you so much for asking. Right? Okay, so I'm going to jump in first, maybe with you, Gilbert, because you and I haven't talked as much about this as I have with some of the others. Why did you decide to use Ardi, and what was your sort of initial focus of the kinds of questions and support that you're trying to provide to your members and customers?
We focus mainly on the customer service aspect of it. We did not embed it into our MLS data yet. I think that's in the future for us.
Okay.
We were focused on the idea of exactly what you said, helping our members when they need it and not necessarily during our normal office hours. And so we embedded it with as much of our events, as much of our bylaws, as much of our policies, to make it able to help our members after 5 o'clock on the weekends or, at midnight when they just happen to have a question. That was our focus.
And how did you decide which kinds of content to put in first?
I think we wanted to give it the information that we knew was set, right? Our bylaws, our operations, our policies, information from our website, and that's where we started. I think as it's starting to learn, we're putting in more and more information on how we wanted to answer those questions. And we'll just pull that from the list of information we get from the product, right? Ardi is amazing that they say, here's the questions that they're asking. Great. Well, now we know what to feed it so that it's able to answer them in the future.
Gotcha. And Jeff, I'm going to ask each of you this question because I think it's important how you got here and what problem you were trying to solve. So Jeff, in your case, what was your situation?
Well, yeah, and again, it's all about, as you guys have suggested, the customer service, but our mantra here is one member at a time. And we're trying to look at different ways that we can service people. As you suggested earlier, Marilyn, we're not here always when our members need us, right? And so this is a great way to be able to provide that support to them at many of our members, at midnight or 2 a.m. or whatever the case may be. So from that perspective, it was really important to us to try to find a way to fill out that customer service need. The other part about it, though, from my perspective, was it's part of our brand in the sense of demonstrating to our members and to everybody out there that, hey, we're right on the edge here. We know what's going on out there, and we want to make sure that everybody knows we know what's going on out there. And this is just another way of doing that. So
it's
that was
positioning.
all.
Yeah, I love the one member at a time. I think that's a great mantra. Anyway, so Shelley, you started with a little bit different twist, I think, right? So maybe tell us how you got into it and what your motivation was.
Well, our story sort of starts back in 22. We launched 9 technology integrations in 12 months. And so we had a lot of calls coming in. And at that time, our solution was to use, because there was too many calls coming in for our staff to answer, we hired a external call center that was here in Indiana, local, but they were not MIBOR employees answering the phone. So that worked really well through the worst of the conversions. But now that's starting to taper back off. But what it provided us was 24/7, 365 answering. So to dial that back, now we have our own staff answering the phones, but we still needed to deal with that after hours. And so that's what attracted us to Ardi in the first place. However, I will say, we're using it much more than just in the off hours. We gave it its own designated phone number that some of our members had already. And so we're getting a lot of feeding into Ardi, even during work hours for some of those easier, kind of more redundant questions. So it's working great for us.
That's awesome. And you told us something really good on the prep call I'd love to share. It's sort of your day-to-day impact. So Ardi's answering a lot of the questions, right? And more questions. In fact, I think you said you add new data every single day, if I remember right. With the staff that you had that was already answering, or not the offline staff, but your current staff, how has their job changed now that Ardi's taken on a lot of the more sort of routine questions and answers?
It's been great. I think we were a little nervous about it at first, and obviously nobody wants to be replaced by a robot, and all of those fears were there. But what it's actually done is it's been able to move our staff so that they're having a more hands-on experience with our brokers and our agents. So now, for example, when someone calls and asks Ardi a question that Ardi can't answer, it logs it, we know it, it creates a ticket, and one of our staff members calls back the member, gives them the answer, and then creates a new knowledge base article from that answer that we then feed into Ardi. So we reward them by telling them they stumped us, they win a prize, and then now they have contributed to making Ardi even smarter. So for us, Ardi's literally getting smarter every day. It's just great.
And then what is the staff that would have been answering those questions doing now?
Well, now they can reach out directly. Now it's more proactive reach out to the brokers and agents. For example, we can now kind of characterize what calls are coming in from, say, a brokerage, and now we can reach back out to that brokerage and say, we see that there's a lot of calls on this topic. How about if we come out and do a class on that topic at your next office meeting, for example? So it's just moving the staff from waiting to receive a call to being able to take proactive action and call out to our members and sort of getting ahead of the questions. It's been great.
So you got someone that said, Jeff, can you give out answers for sleep? That's funny. Question for probably for you, Meagan, but maybe for all of you. Is anyone using Ardi yet as a multilingual service delivery? And if so, what languages are we using? Any of you guys doing that yet? I know it has capabilities, but if not, Shelley, are you doing anything with that yet?
I just, so that I could be prepared for this, and I have all my screens open, I have the September calls up, and I can see that we answered a question in Chinese to somebody.
Wow.
So I think there are 25 or 26, Meagan will know for the exact number, but there's a lot of languages. We have a large population of people from Bangladesh in Indianapolis, and so they added that language for us so that consumers who also call occasionally can be answered too. So it's, lots of languages, but for sure a Chinese came one just the other day.
That's interesting. So you don't have to sort of say anything. They can just ask it in their language, and if we've got so what happens, Meagan, if it's that's 25 is a lot of languages, but if it's one of those that is not there, what happens?
It would say that it doesn't know the language. And so same example as Shelley, we had a client who has a big Burmese population. So we added Burmese to it, and agents are actually using it in client meetings. And so using it as a translation tool. So that's been super helpful on the fly. But if we don't know an answer, it will most likely respond in English or say, I don't know that, and contact the association. That said, we know 26 languages verbally, but we know over 100 in text.
Wow. Okay, so it's going to be hard to sort of stump the chump, as they say. That's what they use in the wine world. Stump the chump. That's great. Okay, good. Gilbert's doing something really fun with this, so I would love you to talk about this. So there is a way, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but you can actually talk to something, right? It's not just text. Something will actually talk to you, like in words, right?
Ardi has different personalities that will talk to you, yes.
Yeah, so tell us about your Sam Elliott personality you're doing, Gilbert, in Texas. I love this.
The lawyer in me has to say it is Sam Elliott adjacent. We do not have a license for his voice.
Okay.
But it is a Texas style voice, and I'll be the first one to say I was shocked when they put it on there, and I was like, absolutely not. We can't use this voice. And I was walking around the office, and I said, call this number. And they would call, and sure enough, he'd be like, well, howdy, how can I help you? And people would just start to smile and talk to it in a much more casual way. And I went home that evening, and I think I called somewhere, and I got an AI person, and it was very monotone. And I realized, you know what? This idea of giving it a personality really allows you to interact with it in a much better way. And I think people enjoy that it just changes the immediate reaction of, oh man, I'm talking to AI bot. It's okay, I'm going to give this thing a chance because it has some personality.
And
I
the
think,
voices. Oh, go ahead, Megan. Sorry.
well, I was going to say, I think there's still a lot of people that are intimidated or concerned about talking with AI or a robot. And so giving it a personality really addresses that intimidation. We see that the associations and MLSs that do give it a personality, there's more engagement. It becomes fun. And Gilbert, y'all have done an amazing job of giving Ardi a personality. I mean, all the little Texas euphemisms that are built into it. It's joyful. So it sparks, a little bit of happiness in someone's day when they're utilizing it. So we've seen that be a very positive addition.
And you could tell, like, on people's face, right? Like, I wouldn't normally see how people would react, but the moment they would call from my phone, they would just start to smile. They're like, "This is great." So that meant to us, we knew we were on something.
I love that. And Jeff, you took it to another place, also an interesting voice. Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, and I say, we ended up using me to do the voice for Ardi on our website. Now, I'm the only person on staff that knows all 26 languages. So I was able to, no, that's, okay. So the real reason, and I said, some people around here would say ego, that really wasn't the reason. It was what Megan's already been talking about, in that we wanted to have a voice that people were familiar with,
Mhm.
that what made it a little bit less, I say awkward isn't the right word, but a little more comfortable to have that engagement. But it's not something that there's any permanent decision about, right? We're experimenting, and then as time goes on, and we have other people who might have more pleasant or interesting voices, that's fine. Though I love what Gilbert did. I mean, it wouldn't be the same character, obviously. I wouldn't go as well up here, but we'd use somebody that, I think that's a neat idea, to use people that are interesting and that people would enjoy and have fun with.
And have you gotten any feedback? Because it is different. It's, we heard from Gilbert, it sounds like they enjoy that it's got a little Southern charm to it, which is great. Are you getting any feedback about that? Wow, I'm talking to the CEO about this, or the CEO pays enough attention that he's helping me with this? Have you gotten any of that kind of feedback yet?
I'd love to think that was the case, but I haven't literally gotten any feedback to that effect as of this point. But again, we're very much towards the, just starting up the process here, and we've only had it for a while. So yeah, we're gonna certainly look for that kind of feedback and see, how people's interactions are. And if there's a way that's more interesting or more fun, we're gonna definitely seize upon that.
I love that. And Megan, so like you say, there's different approaches. Which is also something I love about this. I think when we think of robots, we think of them as like straight on doing exactly the same thing for every single person. That's clearly not what's happening here. But there may be folks on the call that some would like to do more the way Shelley did it. Some might do it more the way SABOR did it. Some might do it the way that NSBAR is doing it. Any patterns that you've seen in terms of best practices from any or all of those approaches?
I think the personality is the icing on the cake. The data that's fed into Ardi is really what's critical. So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a best practice. I do think that the personality will increase the adoption. People enjoy using it, so they'll call it. That said, there's people that are using it just for the convenience factor. We have seen across clients that they're getting engagement from agents that don't typically reach out to them. Maybe because they're now getting to text and they don't want to deal with a person. And so I don't know that that's all personality driven, but I think just the accessibility is really what makes the difference.
And can you just summarize again, what are all the different ways that someone could access Ardi?
Yeah, so we're available on text, web chat, phone, Slack, Teams, WhatsApp, and Facebook. And we're adding in more communication channels all the time. So we very much believe in listening to our clients. And so if someone comes to us and says, hey, we want to go on TikTok, or we want to go on whatever channel, we're going to add that into our roadmap.
I love it. Got it. Okay, good. All right. So there's so many, I could ask you guys 100 questions about this. It's so much fun. So one of the things I think, well, actually, I'm going to ask you another question, Megan, while I've got you. When you're out there now, I know you're talking to lots of MLSs. What are you hearing that people are concerned about, worried about, unclear about? Just kind of give us where are the sort of the misperceptions about how a product like this might work? And so maybe you can clarify that for everyone.
Sure. And I think this goes across really all industries, is that people are still very concerned that AI is going to replace staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so reassuring that this is a tool to augment your staff's responsibilities, being able to reposition them to focus on the higher value work, and using this more as like a tier one support has been an important education piece. So yeah, I think just that process of reassuring them that we're not trying to reduce your staff. Could that happen down the road? I suppose, but I think in our business, especially, people want human interaction, and there's always going to be a place for building relationships and maintaining that sense of humanness to it, right?
Yeah, I actually talked to Jim Yockel, who I think was the first MLS in Rochester, New York, to go live with it. And not unlike Shelley's story, he said he's got his customer support people doing much more interesting and frankly fulfilling projects for them as well as for the client, because they've gotten away from the more mundane answers of what's the yard sign regulation for a blank neighborhood. They're doing things that are much more thoughtful and fulfilling for them as the people providing the support. So I think it's kind of good for everyone, right? Nobody wants to do the same mundane task over and over and over and over and over and over. That's what makes our jobs not so interesting, right? So if you can make it more interesting for the support folks, I mean, Shelley, you could answer this. I gotta believe they're more inspired, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. Way,
They're
way more.
having more fun.
They have more fun. They feel like they're helping at a different level. It's not, like you say, it's not as rewarding to just keep telling everybody what time the meeting starts on Tuesday. It's much more fun to find some patterns and then start to think ahead and be proactive at it. It's been really great, and we have a great staff. I think there's an important piece that Meagan just said too about all the different ways you can interact with it. What I've learned is there's our members are all unique and different and individual, and they all want to interact in different ways. And what we learned was there's a big population that really wants to talk to a human person, and they want to call and they want to talk to a MIBOR staff person who knows them and they have a face for them. And that was stronger than I thought. I thought it was more about getting the right answer, but they really wanted that relationship. But there's a whole bunch of new members who really are of a completely different generation that just want to send a text and they just want an immediate answer and they don't need all the interaction. And so this way we're able to sort of meet our members where they are, whoever they are, because we have so many different ways to get them the right answers, and it can suit their own personalities. So I think that it's about giving the option. No, I don't think it would be good for us to be 100% only Ardi. I think it's good because it supports in all the different places so that we can meet our members where they are.
Kind of follows the Jeff one member at a time philosophy, that they each want to do things differently at different times. They're in different locations. There was a question from Victoria, Meagan. Is email one of the options as well?
We do have an email integration coming out.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's coming soon. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Hey, Marilyn,
Okay,
can I
yeah,
chime
go
in
ahead.
for a second?
Absolutely.
I just want to say that, and we dance around it a little bit sometimes with AI in terms of people losing their jobs and things of that nature. There are some things out there already, right, that AI clearly does better than a human being regularly will do it. Okay, and I'm not suggesting that customer service is one of those things in terms of, okay, we can just turn our customer service over entirely to that. I agree completely with Shelley that there's always going to be that mix or that need, that combination. But I do think it's important to recognize that, hey, look, if we can take advantage of this great technology, whatever we want to call AI at this point in time, take full advantage of it, that I suspect that almost everybody on this call would say, you know what, we're not going to, and I know you didn't, Shelley, right? You don't get rid of staff because of this. You're having them do other things that are also important, right? And also meaningful and all, and contribute. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
It makes sense. So, one of the things that I've thought about, we're in the midst of rebuilding our technology, and we have a search just like you guys do, and people ask us questions just like they do, different questions, obviously. But when you first think about, if there was no limit to search or to the kind of questions you could ask, it's a little overwhelming. It's like, well, I don't know. What questions will they ask? I don't know. I mean, you know from customer support what they've called for historically, but if the world was an agent's oyster and they could ask for anything, you don't really know what they're going to ask until they ask it, right?
Mhm.
But you do have lots of data, lots of reports, lots of information from a variety of sources. Some are internal, most are internal. Some might be county records and things like not property records, but county information, flood information, right? A whole bunch of different things. How do you, and I'll start with you on this one, Gilbert. How do you work to gather all that stuff and get it in a format that makes sense where Ardi can actually read it and be able to interpret it? How does that process work, and what do you have to go through to get that done?
Well, I think you have to have a solid team, right? And people who are using the tool. And more importantly, I think you need a partner like Voiceflip, who's going to help you and tell you, hey, this is where you're lacking a little bit of information. Can you get us something there? Or this would help you in supporting the calls a little bit easier. And, Voiceflip has just been amazing to help us to utilize the tool. Obviously, we are not in the business of building AI tools. And so we found the right partner with them to help us figure out, you need this database, you need that database. And then the team works to get that to them and to help, build out what Ardi needs to be in order to provide that 24/7, 365 support.
Uh-oh, Marilyn,
Right,
we
there we
lost
go.
you.
Sorry. Can Ardi take all kinds of formats, Excel spreadsheets, CSVs, links, whatever? It can take, how much can it take all different types of information and ingest it for the groups?
And we usually do a combination. So we can scrape websites, we can ingest all different types of files, but our favorite is connecting through APIs, just because then anytime something is updated in that knowledge base, we can update it instantly. Otherwise, we take about, I'd say 24 hours to update via a document. It's been super helpful with like MIBOR, Shelley, your team is amazing. They send us so much data. Like she said, they create an article anytime a question's asked and it can't be answered, and then they email that document to us so that we can upload it immediately.
So we're
So
getting
we see a
so many
lot of
questions.
documents.
You guys, the team's very excited here. They want to ask you a bunch of questions. So this is one, I don't know if it does this. I think it's kind of fun. Carrie's asking, does Ardi have a staff assist feature? In other words, can it make a suggestion to a staff while they're assisting a customer? Can it actually go in and say, hey, I don't know the answer. Let me go see if I can find it through Ardi? Like it's like using their own knowledge base while they're talking to a live customer?
We do that.
Oh, you
For
do?
sure.
Oh, go ahead,
we,
Shelley. Tell us
we
about that.
absolutely did that. I did it in a board meeting the other day.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know, I couldn't remember a specific of a bylaw. And so I said, well, wait a minute, let me just ask. And I quick texted it to Ardi, and Ardi came back with the answer because Ardi has our bylaws. So Ardi could tell me for sure where that was. And then just to be sure, because I didn't want to, you do hear about AI hallucinating and whatnot. I could say, well, where is that? And Ardi could tell me where to find it in the bylaws so I could see it with my own eyes.
So it's bylaw 17.2 kind of thing, and then you can go look it up and confirm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it Ardi doesn't send while Ardi's answering a question of a member, it doesn't ping a staff member and say, hey, there's this one little bit I don't have. Can you give me more? It doesn't do that. But like I said, it logs every single call. So we have every single question and then every single Ardi answer. And so we have a staff member who goes through that log every day and just makes sure that the answers were accurate or fully answered the member. And then that's how we continue with our training. So yeah, so we've used it on staff a few times. I asked it in front of everybody what our fees were one day, and it was right, and they got it all right, and it broke it down perfectly. So it's really good.
Love that. So you just led to the next question. Maybe Jeff, if you want to jump in on this one. Tina's asking, do the communications with members get logged somewhere that we can look at? It sounds like absolutely. But do you want to talk to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and when I say that's, and it's not just if it can't answer something, it's we know everything that it's doing. So I think that's what, when I say it's valuable in that when we first were putting this together, we were looking at our own call logs to see what we should have already, what information Ardi should have, right? Along with all of our documents and now we just continue forward occasionally, regularly looking at our call logs to see, okay, what other things do we need to have Ardi sharpen up on, or what do we need to add, or how do we need to tweak this thing up? So it's, you know, iterative. It's just not going to ever be everything, right? It's going to keep improving as time goes on, just as everything with AI is.
And with, question for you, I mean, maybe Gilbert, I don't know if you've seen this, or maybe if not, Meagan can talk about it. Is there a way to create sort of summarized reports that you can show to the board? Like we had, 55 calls about yard signs, and we had 55 calls about how to use the CRM tool more effectively. I'm just making up dumb examples, but does it give you any kind of a summary, like at the end of the month, you can show the board about, sure, I know it shows how many calls, how many were answered, that kind of stuff, but does it tell you like the scope of what kinds of things are being asked as well?
I mean, I know if we asked Meagan, we would absolutely get it. So I'll turn it over to Meagan.
Gilbert, yes, so we do provide that type of information, and I'm not going to go into details on what we're releasing, but I will say we have a team of data scientists on our team, and so our metrics are going to continue to improve, so that way we will anticipate the questions and really the answers that you need to give to your board. We are with you, holding your hands and going through that board process with almost all of our clients. And so we've got our team working on some really cool metrics that will be available soon.
Hey, we're okay with you at Ardi Technology sharing your news here, and we'd be the exclusive on that. That's okay. You can tell us the good stuff.
We are launching something very special next week at RESO. So I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
Come and visit. We'll have a booth there on Wednesday, and definitely we'll share more with everyone.
Okay, I'm going to circle back with you. You're going to have to tell everyone what you learned for those that didn't go to RESO. So thank you so much for that. All right. Let me see. I could just go on for hours and hours. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to this stuff.
Well, I wanted to add something to Carrie's question. She asked about a staff assist feature. And so one of the things that we can do, and not a lot of our clients are doing, is we can silo off information. So if an MLS and association wanted a certain data set that was only available internally, we could train Ardi on that for them solely, and then have a different knowledge base for their agents. And so we have a lot of flexibility on the type of the data that's available to the user.
Perfect. Gotcha. Yeah, actually, to that point, someone asked a question about, I think it was, Victoria asked, is there any way this could be used for listing compliance? Where we get to have or does it already answer that? If someone says, hey, I got a violation for blank blank, can you explain it to me? Does it help with compliance? Is that another component of this?
It would depend on the data that we have for it. So we're only limited by the data. So I sent in a message that let's go ahead and have a chat about exactly what she's interested in doing. I don't want to give a wrong answer on that one, but we're only limited by the data. So as long as we have the correct data, we can evaluate it.
Gotcha. So Carrie asked a question. I love that these are getting very practical, because that's how you guys are in MLS world. It sounds like Ardi is answering the phone and giving callers the chance to interact with it. Does Ardi integrate with any type of phone system? Because I know people have different types of, some are voice over IP and some are different kinds of things.
Yeah, as long as it has API access.
Okay, gotcha. So that would, if you wanted to check whether your system would work, you'd have to ask your supplier about that. Okay, gotcha.
I would say more than 90% of phone systems these days have that capability, so I'd be surprised if it didn't. Gotcha.
All right. Okay, so someone's excited now. I gotta believe there's people, I can tell at least a few that are asking the questions probably are. What does it take to go live? Is this a 2-year process, 2-minute process? What does it look like? Maybe I'll start with you, Gilbert, or actually, Jeff, go ahead. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, and I say the process goes as long as your own staff is getting the information over. I mean, I got to say that it was just a terrific process. It was Meagan, everybody over there were very responsive. It just understandably takes some time. I would say, what would you say, Meagan? A couple of months? I mean, It may be a little bit longer than that, depending upon the amount of information involved, but it really is not this year-long, oh my God, when are we ever going to get this thing? It didn't quite work that way at all. And from our perspective, we soft launched essentially, we put it out there and didn't let people know yet. We kind of had everybody banging on it. We tell our board, we tell people to, do that, and discovered very quickly that it was really ready to go. So it's a short process.
Gotcha. Now, Gilbert, you're an attorney, so I'm going to ask you because you were probably tougher than anyone else on the call about this stuff.
You can tell
Um,
by I don't talk, yes.
Yeah.
So how do you know that I mean, let's be honest, all of our data in every single bucket that we've got in everybody's Excel spreadsheets are not all completely up to date. I mean, we all things are dynamic and move, right? But how did you know, or did you have any kind of a sort of a QA system internally to look at it to say, does it have to go through like legal review, or just you looking at it, make sure everything's up to date, all the bylaws are current or anything like that? How'd you do like sort of quality control, I guess would be the way to answer the question.
It's going to sound repetitive, but it really is the great working relationship with Voiceflip. We did a lot of quality control. We made sure our policies, our bylaws were the most up to date. But as they mentioned, you get an API from the website, and I'd get a ping saying, hey, your bylaws say this, but on your website over here somewhere it said this.
Oh, wow.
Which one do you want to make sure that it's referencing? And I was like, thank you for helping us find that. We're going to take that down and update it because, we hadn't gone down that rabbit hole in a long time. So it really is a great working relationship with them, but you do want to make sure that all of your information is correct. I'll also go back to a question that Jeanette asked, Marilyn. It was just is there pushback from people answering support, not being able to make physical changes or only answer questions? We knew when we adopted this tool that the goal was not to replace any of our staff members. If someone needs to call and make a change to the MLS, we have a solution for that too. Even if it's after hours, they can still find a way to make that change. This was really simply to supplement it. And like everyone else has said, to allow our staff to, give better customer service, not worry about, hey, we only have 30 seconds to answer this call because I have 5 on hold. It is a supplement to the tool. It is not meant to replace any staff member for us.
I gotcha. And that's a great side benefit of sort of QA on what is here versus what is here, because there's so much data in so many places. That's a great that the system is reading it, right? And it's looking, saying, wait, this 16.1 says this here and 16.1 says that there. That in itself is probably a time savings and something you guys appreciate, I would guess, right?
Very much, very much.
That's pretty cool. I love that. So can Ardi direct us to a specific department if the answer doesn't suffice? So like there might be different levels of support. So compliance, if somebody asks a compliance question, could it say, hey, I'll have someone call you back from compliance, or direct connect to it, or things like that? Or something about education. I took a class, is my CE, well, no, it knows if its CE is up to date. That's a bad example, right? It's connecting with that stuff. But can it sort of pass the call, if you will, to other people around the company if needed?
I'll answer yes. We do that. It of course it logs the question, it logs the call, and it logs the answer, but it also can say you should call back to this, because it's a different phone number to call to our staff. Call back to this number and they'll get you in touch with whatever that is, whatever membership or whatever the question is. And the best part about that is sometimes our staff are beating them from the callback, which is, again, because they're seeing they're getting the information so quickly. And we have a lot. Like I said, I have the spreadsheet open right now. There's a whole section of calls of people calling this special phone number that, again, they had that number. So some people are calling and surprised when they read it, and they say, I just want to talk to a human. And Ardi will say very nicely, okay, it was nice talking to you, even if it was for a moment. If you just dial back at this phone number, a human will answer your call if it's during business hours. So there's a little bit of that, but Ardi, again, she can get them to the right answer in a very lovely and helpful way, and not just say, I can't answer that question. So we've taught her, if someone says I need to talk to a human, how to answer that question and get them to the human.
What's your Artie voice like? It sounds like it's a woman. What is
Mine
your
is
tone?
ours is a woman. She's great, and she's very Indiana, just very friendly and nice. I will say the first voice, we said we just send us a woman's voice, and they just plugged one in. And not everyone heard it this way, but I have a 20-year-old daughter. And so I heard her voice that sounded a little like, ugh, are you going to answer me this question really? And so I was like, that's not going to work. We need her to warm up a little bit. So she sounded so much like my daughter's a little bit snarky tone of voice that we asked for a different one. And the new one, she's just very genial and helpful, and is just a very warm, but she is a girl. So we call Ardi a she at our office.
I love it. That's so great. Victoria says she loves this. Okay, Victoria, I'm with you. As you can tell, I love this too. I think it's really neat. All right, so let's ask another question that we always struggle with anything in MLS launches. How do you get adoption on this thing? Maybe start with you, Jeff, or yeah, Jeff, we'll go with you, and then maybe to you, Shelley. So, how do you get them to know that this is coming? Do people get shocked at first? What's their feedback? But how do you get them to know that this thing's, number one, that you have 24/7 coverage, which is great for a lot of things, right? But just in general, how do you get them to start using this stuff?
Yeah, and you've touched on, what we've emphasized in our communications and our marketing about it is this notion that, hey, we're here for you all the time, is how we've done that. But it's an interesting conundrum in the sense that it's not the typical product that let's get as many people to do this so we can sell some stuff. No, it's not like that. It's, hey, it's here. And if people use it, that's great, and we want them to use it, and that's fine. But if they're not using it, it might be they just don't have any questions, or they don't have any information that they need. So in that regard, it's a little tough. So I think at this point in time, we're just trying every single vehicle that we have, every single avenue that we have, just to make people aware, and keeping in mind too that it's, again, people that are typically busy, right, for some reason or another within the industry, that are likely to take advantage of it. So I don't have any magic other than to say that it's our usual grind, our usual stuff.
And Gilbert, have you tried anything specific to build awareness of what's going on here that you can share?
Most of our jobs is all about change management. And I know that I heard the other people who used Ardi completely turned off their phones and sent everyone to Ardi to train it for a week, which I thought was awesome and their staff loved. I'm turning up the water a little bit slower and, not letting it come to a boil. So we're okay with the slow adoption. We think we've put it into the MLS. We're putting it into the MLS. We've done the phone. We absolutely integrated it as many places, and we're just slowly launching it out there. I think the reason why is in order for people to have a good experience with it, we wanted to be as trained as possible, and we wanted to answer the questions as best as possible. And I think that's going to take a little bit of time. And so on this one, in order for them to continue to want to text it and call it and do what I should say he, like Shelley does, to encourage to call him, we want him to be as ready as possible. So for us, the adoption we know is going to be slow and steady.
And Shelley, I left you for last because you have the actual design and marketing background. What did you do to try to get awareness? And you had an interesting challenge because you have 2 different phone numbers, and you had that from historical issues. So how did you get people to start taking advantage of it?
Well, I would say the place we're getting the most interaction is in our systems. So when you log into your member dashboard, you'll see the cute little owl right there, and you can ask Ardi a question. If you hover over him, he expands and says, "Ask a question right here," or she. And then so we get a ton that way. And then also in our BLC system itself, there's still that little owl. So seeing that little owl and clicking on the owl and asking questions. That's getting the most run. I've got some stats in front of me, and I know that of like the 1,400 questions that she got in August, because that's the one that's top on my list, 811 of them came in through that means. So coming in through a little chat bot in the system where they are. So now you can imagine in the launchpad, in the dashboard, where they start. Those questions were largely around billing. We just did our second semi-annual billing. So there was lots of questions about membership questions there. But when you look at the one that's inside our BLC system, those questions are, what's the rules around private remarks, or how long do I have before I have to get this listing live? And so she answers different questions depending on where she interacts with people. We have the fewest coming in via text, but that's growing every month. For a while, it was just me texting every day with funny questions. So yeah, that's been the way. But we had over 900 knowledge base articles to start with, because we had this external group that we had to train. So we cleaned those, made sure they were really accurate. But because we had such a large knowledge base that spanned the whole organization, both the association side and the MLS side, and rules and bylaws, everything, we were able to plug all that in pretty fast. And so you asked earlier, what was the time frame? I think, Megan will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from the time we handed off all the data to when it was live in our system was like 3 weeks. So it went really fast.
Really quick. So yeah, that's a really good point that you made, Shelley. And I think something you shared before, that you should have a knowledge base in your MLS and association long before Ardi, right? So the more data you've already collected and the more you've already thought about the kinds of questions that your customers are asking for, the easier it is for this to go live, right? So if you've already done that work, it's a lot easier to just import it over and keep going, which is great. Okay, there's a couple more questions in here. Let's see. We talked about that one. Carrie asks, I may have missed this. Is anyone phased in where they take advantage of the chat style support but maintain their call center, so those that are happy to have a chat get their option, and the usual suspects that like to still phone the same number they always have? It sounds like, Shelley, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. Exactly. Yeah. And I think I said, I was telling Jeff, because he and I both had big events this morning, I had our emeritus breakfast today. So we brought in our 40-year members. And so I had all the conversations. One person said, ugh, this AI thing, I don't know about this AI thing. And another one thanked me for having humans answer the phone during 8 to 5. And then somebody else really liked the chat and told us about it. So I just think you have to meet your members where they are, and this gives you that ability, because we tried to do like a staggered staff timing so that some people were working later into the night or earlier in the morning. It was just really difficult to do it with a human and cover the large number of hours that our members actually work. And this way, we're just meeting them where they are in all the different styles.
It makes so much sense we know that we have such a diversity in terms of how people work, when they work, what they do, what they know, what they don't, what their broker provides and what it doesn't. So for you guys to provide that flexibility, and we meet, again, it's the same thing I was talking about earlier. You're meeting them where they are. You're not making them meet you, you're meeting them. And changing that dynamic, I believe, is a significant game changer for associations and MLSs, especially because we've got people, I don't have to rehash all the stuff. They're mad at NAR and blah, 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 all that other stuff, right? When you guys come and say, you can think whatever you want about that, but I'm here for you right now, whenever you need me 24/7, that's got to make a difference over time. In fact, I'd love to ask you about that. If any of you have gotten any kind of, I know you're getting sort of the anecdotal feedback, and it's early for all of you, so you may not have that yet, but is there, do you have any sense of generally how your customers are feeling about this? Are they feeling like it's a good addition to what's going on, or is it still a little too early to answer that? Gilbert, what's your sense of that? Yeah.
I know for us, our members have been excited, the ones that want to interact with it, because as you've mentioned, the ones who want to call, they already have their staff member they love to interact with. And if they're emeritus, they've been interacting with that person for the last 40 years. So this wasn't meant to replace them or tell them, hey, you can't still call. It was simply to provide our new members who are like, you know what, I don't really want to have to go press 2 to get this department. And so you can just text or call this number and know you can get a concise answer. And it's been a great experiment. We went somewhere outside of our jurisdiction, and a secondary member in another board said, oh my God, we love Ardi. It's been amazing. And it was so great because we were visiting in this other association, and it just made us show our value as an association, saying, look, we're trying to communicate and meet our members where they are, just like you said.
Yeah, that's a whole other longer term opportunity that if you're trying to bring, a couple markets together and you can demonstrate how much you really care about customers, I got to believe that warms the waters that's a whole other conversation, but could be interesting. Few questions coming in. Philly asks, can Ardi learn from previous emails to improve its tone and accuracy? Megan, I assume that's the case?
Yeah, we can. So we up like Shelley's doing it by sending those articles to us. We can learn by tickets. We can learn by email. So anytime Ardi needs to be updated, you just send us that update, and we'll retrain our models.
Gotcha. And if somebody reaches out to, I love the owl, by the way. I got to believe visually that's getting attention because it's just like, what's that owl? What's that doing there? I think that's so cute. There he is. If any of you at our RE technology party, hopefully you got a free stuffed animal. He's really cute. But what happens if somebody decides that they don't want to go this approach? Do you see people that are like, I don't want to do this, and they abandon? And if they do, what happens to that person? Is there an alarm or something that says, hey, you got to go call them? Or what happens if someone abandons the system?
We call them back. We call them back, and it's maybe the next day when, because every night we get the report. So if they haven't called again, then we check our logs and see if they called back and talked to somebody. But if they didn't, then we will call them back, and we see them. I mean, the questions are just, some people ask a whole good question, and like, how do I add showing instructions to my listing, which it then gives them 7 steps to do that. Or some of them just say, oh, are you a machine? And then Ardi doesn't, she's like, yes, I am, and this is how, but you could ask me any question about blah blah blah, and then they sometimes just get frazzled and hang up, and it ends right there. And then we don't call them back because we don't really know what their question was, and to be helpful.
Gotcha.
So we don't want to out them that they got scared on the phone, but if they ask a question and she doesn't answer the question correctly, or if it's or if she just says, I haven't been trained on that yet, we reply to every one of those calls every time.
I love it. This one, I love this question, Deborah. Do you find members are more likely to ask Ardi a quote stupid question than they are otherwise too afraid or embarrassed to ask the staff? And I don't know if you mean, Deborah, like, what's your favorite sports team, or if you mean something that they should know, like, am I a realtor? Because there are questions that come in like that. But can it answer silly, fun questions like that? Does it have like baked it, like, when you call Siri and say, what's your favorite, whatever, it'll answer it. Does it have that stuff? And can it answer so-called stupid questions?
I should give everybody our phone number and invite you to call and ask her her favorite color, because she will absolutely tell you her favorite color.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And Gilbert, do you have any of that? Or go ahead, Jeff. Do you have anything loaded in? Yeah, fun stuff like that?
I think that it's starting to gain adoption because we're starting to get, I hate to say it, prank questions. So we're getting a number of those. I was starting to go through, I was like, gee, I wonder if any of them, and they're not really safe to share.
Right.
But, so yeah, the fast answer to that question is, and this is in anything that you're using with AI now, right? It's, the personality, this interaction is important, right? It's proving to be the case. And I think we've kind of, Shelley and Gilbert have touched on this already a bit, but it's like, we're in a transition here in terms of our industry.
We
And
are.
so while there are people that are more than willing to do this, there are people that are not willing at all to do it for whatever reasons they have. And I think you're hearing from the three of us that we're not abandoning anything. We're just adding something to this. There may be a point in time, and it may be faster than we think, that we don't have to bother to do other stuff. But for now, we're trying to, again, meet the members where they're at.
I mean, it's almost fun. You guys have had so much fun with this. Like, you could almost do like get to know Ardi, and what is Ardi's favorite color, and what's her favorite sports team, and of course she probably loves the Cubs in Chicago and not in Indiana, right? All those things. Right? I know. I'm sad. The Cubs were good, but anyway. All right.
Actually,
Bears.
I think I think one of the strangest questions that we've gotten so far is, how do I lie to my client?
Whoa.
And so Ardi actually answered back with a link to the code of ethics.
Wow.
So we do get we actually started a feature in our monthly newsletter of agents say the darndest things, because we do get some strange questions, or, that could be considered stupid questions that I certainly don't think they would want to ask a human like that one.
That's actually an interesting question though. So has anybody ever asked like, I'm not even going to say clear cooperation. That's way too loaded, but another rule and reg that the MLS has, does it ever say, how do I get around complying with blank blank rule? Does it ever ask things like that? And if so, how does Ardi answer that? Gilbert,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Meg.
yeah, I was just gonna say, the example I gave you is the closest that we've seen to someone trying to go around on that one. And so, I mean, she's smart enough to understand context that she sent code of ethics. We can customize how she can respond to those kind of questions. Maybe it's a simple, you need to contact our legal department. So we have the ability to, put in the right answer for you, but she does understand the context to say, okay, ethics is clearly an answer that's necessary in this moment.
I love it. Okay.
And Marilyn, I was
yeah.
gonna add just like you said CCP, and I saw the dialogue with someone asking about it, and I think using the phrase "stupid question" is sometimes the agent doesn't want to go and ask the broker or doesn't want to call or they're too embarrassed. So that I saw them interact. So can I put up a sign? So can I now put it on Facebook? And it walked them through it. And of course it said, so here's more rules. You should always talk to your brokerage. But it does make it more comfortable. It allows people to be more comfortable to ask questions that maybe they don't want to ask a peer because they're like, how have you not read about this everywhere? But I haven't seen anyone try like, how do I absolutely get away with, not having to pay my broker? That would be bad.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
I did a search just because, like I said, I have it open. I have, how can the seller can the seller override time restrictions? So because we require you put your listing in a certain number of days or whatever, and it answered it beautifully and suggested the reason for why we have the time limits even. So yeah, it's just what you give her, the more you give her, the better she can, and she just keeps learning more and more every time.
And Monica's got a question kind of along those lines. Maybe Gilbert, you can take this one. Can Ardi understand a question that entails an agent explaining a scenario? And Monica, if you want to clarify what you're asking, I'm thinking it's maybe like we're in a client to client scenario or something like that. Does it know how sales process work or how potential conflict might work? And obviously it's not a lawyer, but what does it do anything like that? Or how does it handle if it gets a question like that?
I think we've all learned by going to as many AI conversations that it's all about the prompt. So if it provides enough information in the scenario, so I am the listing agent and this is the buyer's agent or whatever the scenario is, the more it gives, I think it's better at answering that question. So I would say that the scenarios are absolutely welcomed because it helps Ardi decide and determine what it wants to answer back.
Gotcha. Oh, so Monica clarified a little. She said, is this a violation, for an example, is this a violation if I do something for the listing that has this specific issue? Like, can it bounce against the compliance database and say, if you do that or against the rules and regs, yes, in effect, that is probably going to be a violation? Can it give you like a guess of what's going to happen? Not a guess, an estimate or a recommendation. It can do that.
Yeah, Ardi is smart enough to understand that context. So a great example that we use just in the demo process is, hey, I went to a listing and I didn't take a picture of the house, but I took a picture of the car. Is that good enough for my listing? And then Ardi will go back and say, no, like that's great that you took the picture, but you need X, Y, Z.
Okay, gotcha.
She can understand.
So I think that's a really important point, Megan, you're making in general about context. This is not and we've all had this situation. You go to an airline or you go to a bank or Home Depot or any of them, and you ask it a question that's not the 10 questions the bot's been trained to answer, and it won't answer you. It takes you in this ridiculous infinite circle that's so frustrating you just abandon. What I'm hearing is this thing's a lot smarter than that. Like it has a lot more context, and it has as much context as you're willing to give it. And it knows real estate. Right? It's not like some random, oh, it's after hours and so I can only answer this thing and you can only talk to someone at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's not like that. This is much more fulfilling, at least from what you're describing. Is that a fair statement? I'll ask all three of you that. Do you feel like that?
I do. Absolutely.
Gilbert?
I do. I think even just going to that violation question, if it's asking about CCP, so what you're saying is I can submit a postcard. Well, no, it's just, it interacts so well that I do think it's more fulfilling. And going back to what we started earlier, we've given them each a little bit of personality. So
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like that bot that says, these are the 5 things I'm actually qualified to help you with. If there's anything else,
right,
I'm just going to keep asking you over and over again.
right,
It
exactly.
doesn't do that at all. Like it outright says, I'm not trained on that, but I'm happy to find a way to get that for you.
It's just so much more fulfilling. But go ahead, Jeff, did you get
No,
the
I
same
was just
sense?
saying, that was, you just said it, Gilbert. I'm not
Yeah.
trained on that, but I can send you places where you can at least do your own research or find your own answers. I think that's critical because obviously it's not saying, oh, that's not an ethics, violation. It's not saying that.
Right.
But
Right.
it's getting you on the road to finding out the answer. So, no, I agree.
I love that. All right, so we're at the top of the hour. Thank you, everyone that attended. You guys asked tremendous questions. I think this was really fun. But I'll just ask each of you in closing. Maybe we'll start with you, Jeff, then Gilbert, then Shelley. You guys are in it now. You've been in it for a long time, not a long time. In AI terms, it's been 3 whole months. It's forever, but it's not very long. But what's your advice to people that are looking at this and thinking about it? And where would you, if you were one of them and you're kind of intrigued by this, where would you go next? We'll start with you, Jeff.
Oh, I'd say call Meagan. That's what I would do. I mean, in all seriousness,
Okay.
how do I want to say this? Everything is moving very quickly nowadays, right? And there's so many opportunities out there. I would suggest strongly that if there's any interest after you've heard this or after you've talked to any of us, that you get on it already. It's not, as you've already suggested, not an onerous process. And I think it's something that people really need to consider very seriously to serve their members.
Got it. Okay, Gilbert.
Shelley mentioned earlier she onboarded 6 new technology platforms, and that is a lot. And I can imagine the phone calls. And I think we're all trying to keep up with that change. And she's demonstrated we can, and we've all tried to do that. And this allows us to do more with less, right? Like we're all trying to show our value. None of us want to raise our dues. So this tool absolutely helps us to provide, premier customer service in a way that I don't think we would have been able to do before without having to do a call center or hiring 10 more people on staff.
Love it. Okay, Shelley, bring us home.
Well, everything they guys just said, for sure, you just get started. It's the old maxim, when was the best time to plant a tree, right? I would say, though, for a practical thing to do as you're getting started is really look at your data that you have now. Look at if you have a knowledge base or if you have your policies and rules written out in a easy way, go back, read them, make sure they're right, and then just get going, because that's what made it go fast and easy for us, is we had that. And so that's the practical thing, but really it's what the guy said. You just got to get started.
I love it. Okay, so you see here, there's an offer. Meagan, do you want to talk about your webinar exclusive a little bit, and then we'll cut out.
Yeah, for attending today. And first, thank you to all of my amazing clients for being here and talking about Ardi and your experience with us. I really appreciate you. Like, the relationships are more important than anything for us. So thank you. We have a QR code here on the screen now where we're offering $500 off of your onboarding fee if you mention this demo to us, or this webinar to us, and book a demo.
Perfect. All right. All right, we do have one. Oh, Curtis just jumped in with an answer. Someone asked about what happens if you get spammers on the call, and Curtis said, we have spam detection built into each communication. As far as prank calls, Ardi will just reply that she doesn't know the answer. So she won't get defensive. She'll just say, no, thank you, goodbye. All right, well, anyway, thank you guys so much. We will be sending out a recording of this to all of you that registered and attended today. Thank you for all of your great questions. And if you have any more questions, I'm sure, Meagan, if they want to reach out directly to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, just go to our website, voiceflip.com, or you can reach out to us through this QR code.
Perfect. All right, guys, thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful day. Hopefully some will have a great time at RESO next week, and hopefully we'll see some of you at NXT. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn.